Hey, welcome to the Hobby Shop. I'm Philip. I'm here with Don, and I figured we'd just cut that right out of the way, considering it's kind of weird just you saying it, since it's only two of us.
Oh, just us two most of the time.
Most of the time it seems to be just us two, and I've been trying to think of some other way to do the intro. To just say, hey, welcome to the Hobby Shop, here we go.
Could be like, hello and welcome to the Hobby Shop. I'm here with Don and me. Or, Philip, or whatever you want to go with.
Oh, God. Okay, well, let's get going. This week, the Universal Monster movies. Now, I guess I should get kind of a basis on us here. I'm a hardcore Universal Monster movie fan. I've been obsessed with them since I was 6 years old. I actually might have even been earlier. And Don,
I'm new.
You're a complete
I just
noob.
recently got into it.
Yeah. In fact, when I showed you these movies over the week, that was the first time you saw those movies.
Yes.
So, I don't really know where to start. I guess we'll just start with Dracula and work our way through it. We didn't get to see, we didn't watch every single Universal Monster movie because there's too many. I've seen, pretty much you can name one, just name a random one, and I've probably seen it. So we didn't watch every single one. We didn't watch any of the sequels to Dracula, the Mummy, and Frankenstein, and all that. But let's see where we can go. Well, might as well just start with Dracula.
Oh, Count Drac. Well, let's see. Seeing from like the first scene of it, I actually thought it was kind of actually interesting. Especially since I didn't really grow up with these kind of films. I just recently seen them now. And as much as cheesy as they are, it kind of has that cheesy classicness that's kind of messed.
Yeah, it just has a kind of a old charm to it. You don't really get that feeling from modern films, and that's no indictment on modern that's no indictment on modern films. It's just the vibe you get from watching something that is regarded as a classic, and it deserves to be considered a classic. I mean, it's rightfully remembered as a classic. Now, to be honest, when I was a kid, I didn't really watch Dracula that many times. I saw it when I was a kid, but it was never one I was really into. The ones I was more into was the Frankenstein and the Wolfman. Those were the monster movies I was more interested in. But I have seen Dracula several times, and you watch it multiple times, you start to notice things in the background, or you notice things you don't think about. Like, for example, in all these movies, it seems like it's all rich white people.
Well, I think that was just probably the standard back then.
Yeah, I know, but obviously white people. It was 1931.
Yeah, we're not gonna have any colored people.
We ain't gonna have no Blackulas here. Which, by the way, came on last night. Blackula. It's a black Dracula, black exploitation movie. It's actually not that bad. It sounds horrendous.
It does sound pretty bad.
I mean, okay, to be fair, it is bad. But it's not as bad as you would think it is. It's laughable. There's a lot of laughable scenes in that movie. Like, staring back to Dracula, this is the movie that made Bela Lugosi a star. I really don't know if anybody ever heard of him before in Dracula. And the famous voice, the famous Dracula voice.
It's his voice and that death stare.
Yes. His iconic voice. And I know most people already know, but he was from Hungary, so it was his accent. It was his real accent. He threw in a little pauses in there, just kind of seem a little bit more sinister. I don't know.
He was just trying to make himself look, like you said, sinister or evil. So he just wanted to make himself be that character.
Yeah.
Instead of just being himself.
Yeah. And plus, again, like you said, that death stare, that Oh God, he made a entire career out of that. I mean, watch White Zombie. Half the time, it's just Bela Lugosi staring at you. But yeah, he just had this. He just had this presence that I don't think has ever been matched. And I really, really love the Christopher Lee Dracula, but Christopher Lee just does not have that same presence. He's more badass. Like, he's a badass Dracula, but he's just not. I don't know. He just doesn't have that same exotic draw to him. Because I think that's one of the things that a lot of people kind of misunderstand about vampires. The typical vampire in fiction is usually somebody who's very. They usually take on the form of somebody very sophisticated and very suave and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the classical image of a vampire. Well, not the classic image of a vampire, but that's what you would see in a lot of books and stuff like that. A lot more elegant vampires. And I remember when people were raising a big fuss over that. What was that movie where it was like they had like prissy vampires?
Mm-hmm.
There was some movie where they had like prissy vampires, and I don't know, it was like terrible.
Twilight?
I don't know. Something about werewolves in there too.
I know what you're talking about, but who cares? It's people have talked about it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. I forgot the name to it too. Twilight, whatever. Not even gonna announce its name. It's not worth the hassle. It's that bad. It's for girls.
I don't even remember it, but I just remember people getting a big fuss over that. It's like, oh, they pussified vampires.
Oh, it did. They sparkle.
Okay. But I remember one thing people said that, they were supposed to be bloodthirsty monsters. Why would they ever like, why would they ever like take on like a human form or try to be like human, trying to be human? Why don't they just rip their throats open and gouge them
like
like blood?
how with Dracula, he just lured people into his castle.
Yeah, it was one person long time ago. Old interview from like the 50s or the 40s described Dracula as a spider. Kind of waiting until somebody gets caught in his net or his web. I mean.
Yeah. Well, from the Dracula, he hypnotized the woman.
Yeah, that was one of his things was hypnotism, which I think is a lost vampire power. Didn't see that in Fright Night. God, that was an awesome movie, Fright Night. But my thing though was, a lot of people say the whole prissy vampire is something Twilight made up. Nah, if you really look at it, it's something that's always kind of been there. Unless you go into the actual mythos, into the actual mythology and all that.
There's always two different kinds of vampires. There's the brute kind of vampire that does rip out your throat, that some people do. And then there's the elegant, well-dressed, I'm going to lure you in vampire.
Yeah, which is actually probably more scary. It's like the Nosferatu versus Bela Lugosi Dracula argument, where Nosferatu is very monstrous. He is not. He doesn't have like he's not as good looking as like Bela Lugosi. He's not He's not like women don't want him. He's just this kind of. He is exactly what he is in the inside. What he is in the monster inside is what he looks like on the outside. Where it's different with Dracula because, like he looks human, he looks normal, but there's that monster underneath his skin. He doesn't show the monster.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because vampires walk among humans. That's why they take the form of looking human.
Well, they kind of combine the two. If you've seen movies like, what was that one movie? I can't think of it right now, but like vampires would have their human form and their vampiric form.
I don't know.
Underground, I think, did that. Underground?
I'm not.
Underworld. Underworld did that. I was thinking of Daybreakers. That's what I was thinking of. Daybreakers. So they kind of combined the two. But the whole idea of a attractive vampire, that goes all the way back to Bela Lugosi. So that's not something that was new. That wasn't something that What's Her Face made up for
No, it's
movie
been
or
there.
book or whatever. But here's the thing, though. They were still monsters. They were still threatening. I don't know a whole lot about Twilight. I just remember the image of like this one with stupid hair, just kind of sparkling.
Mm-hmm.
That's the image I always think of when I think of that movie. So you can't. So there's nothing menacing about them. I have no idea if Twilight's a horror movie or what it is. So I'm just gonna kind of leave it at that. But yeah, Dracula was still threatening though, and he, like I said, thanks to Bela Lugosi's presence, thanks to his demeanor, he came off legitimately creepy. I mean, he's not scary. I mean, these movies aren't scary by today's standards, but he was still creepy. And just the way he talked, the way he looked, the way he acted, and like when he gets exposed, he has that just that wild look in his eye, which Bela Lugosi's always been great at doing. And I guess we might as well talk about Van Helsing. Van Helsing was kind of a badass in this movie.
Well, I mean, in all the movies, he's always that one character.
What?
The doctor.
Yeah.
Or scientist.
Oh, you're talking about the actor.
Yeah, the actor.
The guy who plays Van Helsing in Dracula, he is always a doctor. He always has that same voice, which is probably just natural to him, but he's the same guy in every movie. He's a doctor in Frankenstein. He's a doctor in The Mummy, and I'm sure he was probably in more of the Frankenstein sequels. One thing to note about Universal Monster movies, they really love to recycle their actors. Dwight Frye, who plays Renfield in Dracula, he is Fritz from Frankenstein. He was one of Frankenstein's assistants in the second movie. Yeah, he was Frankenstein's assistant in Bride of Frankenstein, which he was playing the exact same character, but he wasn't a hunchback, so he wasn't Fritz, which was even the point. He was in The Mummy. He's the guy who gets scared to the point of hysteria. Which, by the way, he dies in every movie.
Did he die in The Mummy?
Yeah, he died. They only mentioned, they didn't show it, but he meant.
But he mentioned that he died.
Yeah, that one guy mentioned that that basically he committed suicide or something like that, or he died in an insane asylum.
Okay.
So
it goes to show that writer just doesn't really like that.
Well, they're different writers. Yeah. They're different writers. But Dwight Frye just dies in every movie. Let me see. Okay, he gets strangled and thrown down the stairs by Dracula, snapping his neck. He gets hung by the monster in Frankenstein. He is driven to the point of insanity and somehow dies in an insane asylum. He gets thrown off a castle. He gets thrown off the castle in Bride of Frankenstein. Yeah, that's about all I can think of right now. Yeah, he just had a knack for dying.
Apparently so.
Anyway, but Renfield, we might as well talk about Renfield. Creepy ass motherfucker.
Well, I had the first impression of when he got the creepy with that laugh like that.
God, that's creepy when you do it.
Yeah, like that laugh. That was my first impression. I was like,
I can't do it. I don't have the.
I was like, damn, that actually is kind of creepy.
Especially when they find him in the boat, where he's just like staring at him, all psychotic. You really should watch the Spanish version of Dracula, because the guy who plays Renfield in the Spanish version, he is just fucking insane. Just so much energy and just his body movement is creepy, and but Dwight Frye, his motions are also creepy. His mannerisms, you can tell that this guy just went insane.
Kind of acting you don't see anymore.
Well, no, you still see it, but
I'm joking. I'm trying to be like those old people who are like, hey, you don't see these anymore.
Yeah, but I don't know. The line I always think of when I think of Dracula is from Dwight Frye as Renfield. It's rats, rats, rats. I don't even remember what led up to that line. If anything does lead up to that line, I can't remember. But it's such a memorable line for me for some reason. It's not even that big of a scene. It's just something that I've always remembered. That's really about it. I mean, I guess we should talk about the set design and all that. The set design
and Dracula
and Dracula was amazing.
Yeah,
for 1931.
A lot of people take that all for granted, and it's like you gotta kind of remember a whole team did that. That didn't get any credibility whatsoever, except for the art director.
Art director.
The art director got all the credit for it. I'm pretty sure he didn't do jack shit. But yeah, that's the thing that's really amazing about this is it's not green screen. Everything you see is literal, put together.
It's actually there.
And I think that's what really drew me in was just you see the effort. You can see through the cheese, the toy spider and the toy bats, and you just see the effort on stage. That's really there.
And one of the things though is it looked. Now keep in mind, we appreciate it mostly because it's real. It does not look realistic, but for the time though, it was really good. I mean, you can tell that it's there's a painting as the background. Like they have the scene with the carriage, and they have the set, but behind the set they have this giant painting of mountains. And really, if you don't pay attention to it, you might think it's actual mountains if you're not paying attention. Of course, if you look at it, you can tell it's a painting. But
yeah, you're just like, oh, geez, a painting, but that's a fucking huge ass painting that someone had to paint.
Yeah, and again, it's actually there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that really goes into that argument because it's a painting of mountains. So I might go back on that a little bit, but yeah, you just appreciate the effort that went into it. But yeah, the atmosphere is great. This is back in the days where Universal really knew how to use atmosphere to its best effect. The fog, the dead trees and all that, the castle itself, and Dracula's introduction. It's not a big scene, but it's
where he's coming out of the coffin.
Well, not okay. I wasn't talking about that, but yeah, that was a good scene. But I'm talking about when Renfield first meets him. And he just, he delivers that famous line that you see in like any monster movie promo, any commercial for the DVDs or anything like that. It's the line that I guarantee you, even if you have not seen Dracula, you've seen this clip where he tells Renfield, "I bid you welcome." Everybody has seen that scene, even if they have not seen the movie. It's just one of those iconic scenes. Now, I guess I should mention that it has very little to do with the actual Bram Stoker novel. Which, that was part of the course back then. Hell, even now, I mean, how many movies based on a book actually get the book right? Yeah, exactly. Well, I can't really say anything else. I mean, great set designs, great performances from Dwight Frye, from the guy who plays Van Helsing, and of course Bela Lugosi. I really suggest though, if anybody has like the ability to check out the Spanish version of the movie. It's not just the movie in Spanish. Universal, while filming Dracula, had at the same time they were filming the Spanish version in Mexico. I think Mexico. Yeah, Mexico. They were filming the Spanish version with all not in Mexico. I got that wrong. I can't get my facts straight. While filming the English version, they filmed the Spanish version with the Spanish cast.
Okay.
But here's the crazy thing: the Spanish version, just from a production value, might be better than Dracula. The Spanish version of Dracula might be superior to the English version.
Wow.
And that's just, again, great performances. The production value was a lot higher. One, how many moving camera shots did you see in Dracula?
Not a whole lot.
Yeah, the Spanish version is all about the moving camera. Like Dracula's introduction is done a lot more grand. Like you actually see, like the camera is like crawling up the steps and then presenting Dracula at the top of the steps. It's not like in the English version where it's just a static shot, where Dracula just walks in the frame. Watching old movies like that, you kind of realize how back then the moving camera was a novelty. You didn't get that very often. Most part, you only had static shots. Which brings me to the next movie, Frankenstein, directed by James Welles. James Welles was the guy who pioneered the moving camera. That was one of his trademarks. Now, I don't think he applied it very much in Frankenstein, but the camera does move. It does move dramatically more than it does in Dracula. Now, I was talking about atmosphere. Frankenstein, it knocks it right out of the park.
Definitely.
The atmosphere is just so creepy. It's a great foreboding mood. And almost every scene is rememberable. Dr. Frankenstein and Fritz digging up the body at the cemetery. Frankenstein bringing the monster to life in the lab. The final scene between Frankenstein and the monster and the burning windmill. These are just iconic images that Frankenstein is just one of these movies where even if you have not seen the movie, you kind of have, because so much of this movie has been parodied, referenced. Just almost everything about the movie most people know about because it's one of the most recognized films in history. Of course, it has probably the most infamous line in all of horror films. It's alive. That is the biggest line in horror film history.
Yeah, it's the most known, is that part, but not the part that goes with it.
Oh, you mean the
censored part?
Oh yeah, the censored part. When the film first came out, the censors just took their scissors to it. Some scenes, like a needle going into the monster's back, was cut out, which made no sense without seeing it, because without that scene, you would just see the monster just all of a sudden fall down.
Well, also the scene where he does the girl in the light.
Yeah, they cut that out.
But hey, we could have the girl
yeah,
body.
They keep the scene where the guy is bringing his daughter's corpse into town.
So it's like, what?
It's just like, okay, so seeing the body's not as bad as her just being thrown into the water. If you showed that and didn't show the body, then you could say, yeah, it's she about as fine. What the fuck? But anyway, what we're talking about is, in what follows the "It's alive" line is, I think Frankenstein says, if I'm quoting this right, and now I know what it is to be God. And a lot of people found that to be sacrilegious, so they chopped the scene out. Not the scene, the line. They censored the line.
They added lightning to it.
Yeah, they put they put lightning over the line so you didn't hear it. It wasn't until DVD where that was fully restored. Because I remember on the VHS tape, you couldn't. It was censored there too. But at least now nobody has to worry about that because you can just get the movie now and it's completely unaltered. Just don't get the colorized version. The colorized version is just real shitty. I always say, if it's a black and white movie, get it in black and white. Do not get the colorized version. If it's a bonus thing on a DVD, sure, but don't seek the colorized version just because I think it ruins it a little bit, especially the sets and stuff like that, because the painted backgrounds look really noticeable in color.
Oh.
So it's just better, just from production wise, just from
See it the way it's made.
Yeah, see it the way it was intended. Well, okay, it wasn't intended, but that was the only thing available was black and white. Actually, no, there was actually a few films at that time that was color tinted. It wasn't color, but it was
Like
color
brown.
tint. Blue, orange, stuff like that. Silent films did that a lot too. They send you away nighttime, morning, dusk, and all that. I showed you the 1910 Frankenstein film, which, hard to believe that the famous 1931 Frankenstein film starring Boris Karloff is a remake. Dracula is a remake too, of Nosferatu. Might not have been its direct inspiration, but it did come out before Dracula, so it was another adaptation of it. But yeah, Frankenstein 1910, produced by Thomas Edison Studios, not Thomas Edison the man, but his studio. Which a lot of people find that funny. It's like, what? Thomas Edison made a movie? No, we're not saying that.
His team did,
His
but I'm pretty
studio
sure
did,
he took all the credibility for it.
I doubt he part of it. I don't know when he died. No.
Don't know, don't care.
Anyway, getting back to the point. So anyway, don't get the colorized version. Just don't. Just get it the way it's supposed to be seen in black and white. That goes down for anybody who watches the in color version of Creature from the Black Lagoon. But color just ruined that movie.
It's just something that's just the art style of it. It's just made to be black and white, and that's just the way it's made.
Yeah.
So it should be the way it's enjoyed.
Yeah, at least I used to have the colorized version of King Kong, but I would always turn the color off on the TV. So all my friends would try to, they'll figure out that it's not in black and white, so they would always want to try to watch it in color. Which, whatever. Anyway, getting back to Frankenstein. Did we ever figure out what the doctor's name was, the actor?
No, we never.
No, we did.
Nope. We forgot it.
Oh, shit.
Shouldn't have asked me to remember names. I already told you before I'm bad with names.
Alright. Shit. I'll have to look it up after this. But, the guy who played Dr. Frankenstein did a phenomenal job in here.
Yeah, he did an amazing job. He really what sold it.
Yeah, you really believed what he was saying. And you actually sympathized with him because he was like, there's that line. It's like, what was it? Did you ever want to see beyond the clouds?
Yeah, to answer the questions, like stuff like that. Where people, if you speak like this, you're crazy then.
Yeah, I think the line was, and you talk like that and people say you're crazy. It's a great line. You really sympathize with this Dr. Frankenstein, which that's usually the typical route they go in these movies, where he's like sympathetic and all that, and he realizes what he's done. If we ever get Curse of Frankenstein, then I can show you a different take of the Doctor. which is funny to think. This Frankenstein from 1931 is not Victor Frankenstein. It's Henry Frankenstein for some reason.
Well, they mixed the names up.
Yeah, they make. I don't know why. Would it really been? Was it a copyright issue?
Someone probably had dyslexia and was like, "Whoops."
Well, yeah, dyslexia was known back then, so.
Whoops.
Yeah, he's a dumbass. So we'll just make sure you don't get these names mixed up. Whoops. Anyway, he does a great job in that movie. He really, he is the star of the film. Everybody remembers Boris Karloff with good reason, but the guy who played Dr. Frankenstein, he was the movie. Then you got Dwight Frye as not Igor, Fritz. A lot of people mistake Fritz as Igor because, you know, it's so synonymous with Frankenstein. That wasn't until Son of Frankenstein that there was somebody named Igor, spelt with a
Y.
Spelt with a Y, and was played by Boris Karloff. Not Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi played Igor in Son of Frankenstein, which a lot of people argue might be his best role, even better than Dracula.
Hmm.
But yeah, Fritz played by Dwight Frye. We already went into this. And of course, you have the monster played by Boris Karloff. Now, originally, the role for Frankenstein's monster was pitched to Bela Lugosi, but he refused the role, and consensus seemed to be that he just wasn't interested in the role because he didn't want to be covered in pounds of makeup.
Well, I mean, yeah, makeup
grunt.
and, you know, the stools or whatever.
The stilts, the platforms or whatever.
It probably was like not looking that good because it looked probably really painful.
Yeah, I mean, Boris Karloff, he paid for it, playing the monster for 3 movies. It ruined his back. But yeah, Bela Lugosi just was not interested in it. He said that there wouldn't be. All you would have to do is stagger around and grunt. Well, for stagger around and grunting, Boris Karloff did a damn good job.
Mm-hmm.
You had. Now, this is something that more established in Bride of Frankenstein, but you really do feel bad for the monster, especially when Fritz is torturing it, and well, he gets hung with his own whip. Which, why didn't the monster just strangle him? I don't know.
Strangling's overrated.
Well, if you look at all these movies, that's usually the preferred method.
That's why you have to change it up.
But anyway,
Strangle with your hand.
you don't even see him do it. You don't even see him do it, but it's effective. And I gotta admit, it's a creepier image to see Fritz just hanging there. And just, you can tell that Frankenstein's getting tired of this shit. Especially after this scene. He's just... No, it wasn't after the scene. It was leading up to the scene. He's telling Fritz to just leave it alone. There is actually a really beautiful scene in the movie where Frankenstein exposes the monster to sunlight for the first time.
Yeah, where he reaches up to it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful scene. It doesn't have a whole lot to do plot-wise, or it doesn't really do anything plot-wise, but it's just a really beautiful moment. Almost like they were fishing for an Oscar. I don't even know if the Oscars existed yet.
No, the best scene was when he threw the girl in the river.
Threw the girl in the river. You're fucked up.
Oh, hey, fuck you, kid.
It wasn't like that.
I know it wasn't like that, but it's the way I like to picture it.
Yeah.
This girl's annoying. I'm tired of you.
That cat did not want to be held.
That's also the reason he probably threw in there.
The kittens is like, let me go. Just swiggling the whole time as the girl is holding it. That's a weird thing for me to remember. But yeah, like I said, it's one of those famous scenes.
It was really ballsy too, especially back then.
Yeah,
having that kid.
Yeah, just.
Most stuff don't even do that now. You can't even really even get. Well, you can get away with it, but it still pisses a lot of people off to this day.
Yeah. Wonder how people reacted to From Dusk Till Dawn. Because the kid in that movie gets it worse than anybody else. Hell, even Tarantino says that.
Hey, people got pissed off when Clementine dies. It just seems.
Wait, what's... Oh, you're saying if you fail?
Yeah, if you fail.
Oh, well.
Come on, it's a little girl dying.
Yeah.
People are gonna go berserk.
Yeah.
And boy, did they go berserk.
They're like, no! Starting over! Well, they had to. Yeah, Clementine couldn't die in the game.
Yeah.
But
it really just goes to show how people go batshit crazy when a girl dies. And then, that was back then.
Yeah, but yeah, it's not that the girl dies. You see her corpse.
Yeah, I was even to this, I was like...
That was even more disturbing.
Yeah, and I've seen some disturbed shit, but I was like, that's...
And we're talking at the time,
yeah.
for the time.
Well, I mean, even now, like, for me, I was kind of, like, slightly disturbed. I was like, wow, they really
They went that far
this.
with that.
I didn't expect that.
This is probably the closest to a horror movie as you're going to get. Or the Wolfman's right up there, too. But yeah, all the way around, classic. It just, in my opinion, one of the greatest movies of all time. So recognizable in the fact that a movie from that long ago, people still talk about today. It's still iconic. People think of, the box head and all that. You got, give props to Jack Pierce for his hard work on all these monsters. Jack Pierce did basically every major monster makeup in these movies. I think the last one he did was the creature from the Black Lagoon, which we didn't get to see. But like I said, there just too many. Jack Pierce. The Jack Pierce makeup is iconic in itself. Everybody knows that face, which is funny to think that everybody emulates the Jack Pierce makeup in any Frankenstein movie except for Hammer. Okay, later on it did, but
Okay.
The Christopher Lee creature, I should say, it's not the monster, it's the creature in Curse of Frankenstein. Looked nothing like Boris Karloff. Looked nothing like the Jack Pierce makeup, which was a good thing because it deviates so far away from the source material to begin with.
Okay.
It deviates so it goes for its own thing, which has left people kind of polarized to the point where some people hate the Hammer film because it's nothing like the Universal one. Which that's good for me. I don't like a sequel to be exactly the same. I don't like a remake to be exactly the same. But yeah, and it's funny to think what people remember from these movies. Like the whole thing about the whole Frankenstein thing, calling the monster Frankenstein. That started
Is it misconceptions, is what you're saying?
It's a misconception, yeah, but that goes all the way back to the movie, all the way back to the original film. Because, they would have the monster space with the word Frankenstein.
People are like, oh, that's Frankenstein. But
Yeah,
no,
I mean, especially if you watch Bride of Frankenstein, Dr. Pretorius, one of the greatest mad scientists of all time, I don't care what anybody says, he says in the movie Bride of Frankenstein, after they make the bride, he says, the Bride of Frankenstein. Like, it makes no sense.
It's crazy. So it makes sense for him, but not for us.
But it's not like Frankenstein made it for himself, he made it for the monster. Maybe, I don't know what the hell he meant.
He's insane. You leave it like that, so it's okay.
But yeah, then you get into Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. Then the whole movie, Abbott is calling him Frankie, or Frank, or just calls him Frankenstein. He mostly calls him Frankie. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen that movie, watch it. It's a classic.
All right.
I'm mostly telling anybody listening. What? Watch anything Abbott and Costello. What's wrong with you people? You need to watch more Abbott and Costello.
Because we have busy lives.
No, they're too busy watching garbage like Superbad.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, Superbad's not so bad. I don't know. Insert shitty comedy here.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Hangover. There we go.
There we go. That makes sense.
But anyway, so many misconceptions. Like, and it's funny what people remember. Like, they remember The Bride. She became one of the most iconic monsters from Universal, and she's only on screen for like 5 minutes.
Huh.
And it's only one movie. The Bride of Frankenstein is only in Bride of Frankenstein, and is only in the movie for 5 minutes. Okay, probably a little over 5 minutes, but it's practically 5 minutes. Which, by the way, a lot of people, you know the law that a sequel must suck, or a sequel can't be as good as the original. A lot of people argue that Bride of Frankenstein might be better than the original. And to me, it goes to the third one. Son of Frankenstein is the best Frankenstein film. I don't know. Before Curse of Frankenstein, I'm really torn on, is Curse of Frankenstein the best Frankenstein movie? I think it is, but, you know, as an adaptation, no. It's hard to say. But out of the Universal Frankenstein films, I think Son of Frankenstein is the best. Mostly due to the performance of... Now we're getting into territory where Don has not seen these movies.
Yeah.
He did not see Bride of Frankenstein or Son of Frankenstein. He just saw the first one. In Son of Frankenstein, you have Bela Lugosi as Igor, which... Okay, this is the line of the movie. The line I always remember from this movie is when Basil Rathbone, his Wolf Frankenstein, talks about how Igor says that the monster was hunting and got struck by lightning and was put into a coma. But the way he says this, like, he's like, Wolf Frankenstein, the son of Frankenstein, is like, wait, he was hunting? And Igor's response was, yes, he was hunting. It was just very creepy. This whole this shambling hunchback with a broken neck, who is apparently supposed to be dead. You know, they hung him. They hung me once. And he survived. So technically he's dead, so they didn't try again. So basically he literally is an undead, disheveled, freaky old man who lives with the dead. And one of the best Universal monsters. I'm calling him a monster. He was so creepy in this movie. He was creepy. Also in Ghost of Frankenstein, he was creepy. But that one's not as good. He wasn't as good as he was as Son of Frankenstein. So, like I said, you had Basil Rathbone as Son of Frankenstein, as Wolf Frankenstein. For those who don't know, Basil Rathbone is mostly famous for playing. He's mostly famous for playing Sherlock Holmes. I was blanking on the name. I couldn't remember the name for a second. But yeah, he's most famous for playing Sherlock Holmes. And he does a great job in this movie. Of course, the Frankenstein curse gets him, so he tries to revive the monster, try to finish his father's work. It made sense in this movie. The sequels didn't make sense because it's not only does Frankenstein succumb to it, but his son comes to it. His other son succumbs to it and goes to Frankenstein. This random doctor named Dr. Frank succumbs to it, and the Wolfman, I completely blanked out on that.
I don't know what you're talking about, so I can't help you there.
Okay, well, let me rephrase that. Do me a favor when you have this at your house, and if you edit this whole bit when I'm trying to figure out the whole Curse of the Frankenstein thing.
I'll think about it. I'm a bit lazy.
Oh my god. Okay, well, anyway, in every Frankenstein movie, there's always a Dr. Frankenstein, even if it's not technically Frankenstein. Like, you have Dr. Frank. He's just some random doctor who wants to, all of a sudden, just a snap of the finger, wants to see the monster at full power. So he becomes the Frankenstein of this Frankenstein movie. Or Wolfman movie, or whatever you want to call it. It's Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
Oh, okay.
And goes to Frankenstein, Wolf Frankenstein's brother. He says no to Igor. It's like, I am not helping you. I'm going to destroy this monster. But no, one of his colleagues becomes the Dr. Frankenstein of this movie. And then back to Wolf Frankenstein. But anyway, also, there's this investigator, or constable, whatever he is, a cop, basically. It's just, like, he has such a chilling backstory about how, like, apparently when he was a child, the monster ran through town and, you know, grabbed him by the arm and ripped his arm off. So he has this wooden arm. And it's just, like, a horrific story, and it's like, holy shit. But you don't see it. You know, it's all through a story the cop is telling. By the way, the guy who plays the cop, I can't remember his name. He's in like 6 other Universal Monster movies, but the majority of them being in other Frankenstein movies, playing different characters. He's also in The Wolfman.
Okay.
But yeah, what left is there to say about the original Frankenstein film? Really, nothing. It's classic. It's
pretty much all the way to its scenery, its acting, its creation, everything to it is just memorable.
Yeah,
it's a staple.
Yeah, and again, the guy who played Dr. Frankenstein, another memorable line is right before him, the is alive line. It's when his fiance and friends showed up at the castle right when he's trying to bring the monster to life, and he wants the friends to just kind of shoo him away. It's like they won't go away, so he just brings them in to show his genius, and it's just like his friend says, "Henry, you're crazy," and his line is, "Crazy am I? We're gonna see who really is crazy or not." It's just like, oh god, the guy did such a good job in this movie. Moving on.
Yep.
We can't really say anything about it, and I've been kind of staggering, and I kind of lost train of thought for a second, and kind of went on a tirade. But okay, moving on.
Well, before we do, I still want to say to the give mad props to the people who made the props, especially the windmill. Having actually watched that burn.
Yeah, that was a thing for you throughout these movies. People burning props.
Well, I mean, you look at how well they're constructed and how well they're built, and you're like, wow, they burned it. They just burned it to the ground.
Well, they had to know that was coming. They had to know that that's what its purpose was.
Even the model prop was probably like, you bastards.
We worked so hard on that, and we're not even going to get credit.
Now they got no
Get back to work, you scabs.
Pretty much.
I don't know why they call them scabs in 1930s America, but whatever. The Mummy. This one was kind of hard to get through. It's still good.
It was okay, actually.
It was still good. It was just not as good as like Dracula and Frankenstein.
Yeah. The main problem for me was when the whole romance thing was like really weird. Oh, I just met you, but you gotta love me, and you're gonna fall in love with me. You don't know me, you know nothing about me, but you have to love me.
And we're talking about we're talking about, well, he's not even the hero.
No, he's not.
The guy who played Van Helsing and Dracula, that guy's the hero.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's just this guy in the main. I don't want to say the main female in the movie. But I can't remember her name. I can't even remember the actress, and she was a really famous actress.
That creepy smile, though.
Oh god, that fucking smile!
And then dancing, just like.
It's just she has to. She just has
fucking grin.
She just has this fake ass giant grin on her face, and honestly, it doesn't look like she's. She just looks like.
I'm gonna bite you.
No, it's not even that. She looks like she has problems, like mental problems. Just I'm dancing.
I don't know the whole killing of the dog part too.
That was a little, yeah. What was the point in that?
To kill a dog, and you don't kill dogs.
Well, this
That's
movie
not
just
cool.
did.
Yeah, that made me a little upset. You don't kill dogs.
I guess we should say that, like what was good about this movie.
That
Boris-
death stare, the literal death stare of, huh.
But anyway, we got Boris Karloff as the Mummy. The first Universal monster movie he actually spoke in. Now, I guess we should state this. This is not what you typically think of a mummy movie. What comes to mind when you think of an old mummy movie?
You know, it's all in wraps. You
Right.
know, an actual mummy.
Staggering around and strangling people.
Or curses or whatever mummies do.
Yeah. You expect a mummy running. No, not running. But, like, dragging its foot and just, like, killing the people who desecrated his tomb. Which, that's what the sequels are all about, with the mummy Karis. But this is different mummy. This is Inutep.
This was a romance.
Well, they called it a romance that lasted 1,000 years.
Okay.
Or thousands of years. Yeah, this is more of a romance movie, more than... Not even that. It's not... I don't want to say that, because that kind of puts a kind of a stamp on it. It's not really that, but that's the kind of the main focus, is the whole... all the mummy's doing is trying to try to get his bride
back.
Yeah, his bride back or whatever. But he's gonna go by any means to get her. But yeah, you do see Boris Karloff as a mummy in the beginning of the movie, which is the best scene in the movie, in my opinion. And of course, you got Dwight Fry being nutsy. Nutsy? I was gonna say nutso, but
Nuts.
just
He
going
was perfectly
crazy.
sane for a little while, but then you're just like, fuck it, you're insane again.
Yeah, he's just like...
Dude, what you do?
He was normal until he saw that mummy. That mummy fucked him up.
Yep.
He's like, he went for a little walk.
I think that's also a memorable line, is that one. Oh, he just went for a walk.
Yeah, he just went for a walk. But yeah, it's great opening scene. And I gotta be honest, when I was a kid, I was disappointed that was all the Mummy we got to see, because the first Mummy movie I saw was The Mummy's Tomb. That was again different Mummy. That was Karis, played by not Lawrence Talbot, the guy who played Lawrence Talbot, Lon Chaney Jr. But yeah, Boris Karloff, he does a great job, and he is very creepy. Like just his stance, the way he stands, like kind of hunched over, kind of this snake-like neck. He just, that voice, just his whole demeanor. He's like Lugosi, just doesn't have that same hypnotic vibe. Lugosi kind of oozes. But for me now, the downside of the movie is the production value. It's still good. You just don't see them go nuts with like the backgrounds and all that. It's all rooms.
Stock
and,
footage and...
Yeah, it's all like modern rooms, modern for the time. It's all modern rooms and all that. So you don't get to see like awesome castles and stuff like that, and the woods and all that. But yeah, when the mummy's doing his whole hypnotism thing, that's when the movie starts to get a little creepy. But it's just kind of disappointing coming off of Dracula and Frankenstein. It's still a great movie. It's still a classic. It's just it doesn't. It's not as, I just don't think it's as good as Frankenstein. It just doesn't have that same feeling. I don't know how to describe it.
They don't have that same intrigue.
Yeah.
It's not as intriguing where it hooks you.
You don't have any characters you don't have any actors like the guy who played Frankenstein or anything like that. The hero in this movie, I do not remember his name. I don't remember any of the characters' names in this movie. He did okay, but it's just him being Van Helsing again for the third time. Not literally Van Helsing, but playing a
The
similar
same
character. Yeah. And, well, guess it's time to... That was 1932. It's time to jump 9 years to 1941 with The Wolfman. Now, this movie's a little wonky at first. The acting's a little weird at first.
Yeah, let me push myself on you. That's
Yeah.
perfectly fine.
Larry Talbot
That's
was kind of a creep in this movie.
Creep. He was nothing but a creep. God. And then the girl was like, "Oh, I'm perfectly fine with you forcing yourself on me."
Hey, 1941. But as the movie progresses, you actually, well, I kind of forgot about it, but as the movie progresses, you actually feel sympathy towards Larry. You feel that more in the sequels, because really all he wants to do is die. He just doesn't want to. He doesn't want to turn into this monster and kill somebody again. He just wants it to all end. And it's just his, every movie pops up in, it's usually a suicide mission. Because any other means doesn't kill him. The only thing that kills him is, well,
Silver.
silver, yeah. Does it even have? It's not even a silver bullet in this movie. It's a silver-headed cane.
Yep. Well, he just gets bludgeoned to death,
Yeah,
just like
well,
the first one.
Yeah, I guess
That
we
was the
should
purple.
step back a bit. You have Lon Chaney Jr. playing Larry Talbot. He's this kind of a playboy kind of.
Douchey.
Well, okay, he's a douchebag, but he's kind of this playboy. He's like he's the son of this. He's heir to this fortune and all that. So, he rich douche. He's kind of a rich douche.
Who goes, peeping Tom on a woman across the street?
That is one time.
One time's enough.
One time's enough. Anyway, once you get past the creeper parts, Lon Chaney does a great job in this role, especially, once the movie really gets going. It's right before, the scene where he gets bit, the movie's just kind of like, eh. Once he gets bit, and it goes into like the psychological stuff and all that.
Or it's just like, oh, who really did this? Or is there anything such as a werewolf?
Yeah, the whole psychologist thing and all that. That's when this movie really gets going and really gets interesting. Originally, the idea was that it was going to be all psychological, that there was not going to be an actual werewolf. It was all in Larry's head. But, mostly because it was called The Wolfman, they might as well make a Wolfman. And one hell of a Wolfman. This is, again, Jack Pierce. The guy was a legend. And again, we're not saying anything new. We're not promising to say anything new. But yeah, the makeup so good. It just again knocks it right out of the park.
The makeup, the scenery, which we'll get to that later.
But anyway, he takes this woman that he met a little forcibly.
Very forcefully.
He's out of a, what was it, a carnival or what? It's some kind of festival.
He went to the it wasn't really a carnival.
It was more of a gypsy festival.
Yeah, I guess a gypsy fest. I guess you could call it a carnival too.
I wouldn't call it a carnival, but it's some kind of festival.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's Larry, the girl he meets, her friend, and her two friends. One of them goes to get her fortune told from Bela Lugosi, which I forgot he was in this movie.
Yeah, he's just in there for like a little bit.
Yeah.
He gets bludgeoned to death, or that to death.
With yeah.
And again, you don't kill dogs.
But hey, you didn't. Well, you didn't see it the first time
Yeah.
either. But we're talking wolves here.
So,
Okay, it was a dog, but still. Let's just pretend it was a wolf. But anyway, he finds the pentagram in her palm. The pentagram to a werewolf means they're their next victim. And yeah, Bela Lugosi, he's a werewolf in this. And by the way, his character, I'm just going to call him Bela Lugosi because his character's name is Bela.
because it's just so short. He's only there for like a few minutes.
But seriously, his actual name, his name is Bela Lugosi, playing a guy named Bela. I guess it was just easier. It already sounds,
Believable.
it already sounds gypsy-ish anyway. Damn dirty gypsies. That was one of our jokes for this movie. It's just, damn them dirty gypsies, not hippies, gypsies.
Damn them both. Damn hippies.
Anyway, yeah, he tries to, he turns into a werewolf. He tries to kill. Well, no, he does. Kills the woman that he saw the pentagram in her
The
palm.
werewolf goes out there, kills her, she dies. What's his name?
Larry comes out with the cane that he purchased. He bought this cane with a silver head. I keep forgetting details. He buys this cane with a wolf's head on it that's made out of silver. Silver kills werewolves. So he kills the wolf and gets bit in the process. And anybody who's familiar with werewolves know where it goes from here. But yeah, I don't like how they described how, like, the corpse without showing it. Like, her throat was ripped out and all that. And you just have this horrible mental image. It doesn't even have, it doesn't have to show you. What your brain comes up with is good enough.
Yeah, it's the other part of telling, not showing, but telling in a way that works.
Yeah, it's scary. Sometimes it's scarier what you don't see than what you do see. I might have said that backwards, but yeah, not exactly scary, but gruesome in your own. Your mind will come up with something a lot more gruesome than what the movie makers could do. But anyway, so they find Larry's cane next to not the body of a werewolf, but the body of Bela. And so they suspect Larry committing murder. And of course, he didn't see a man, he saw a wolf. Which is kind of inconsistent. Why does Larry turn into a half-man, half-wolf hybrid,
Maybe
where Bela turned into a full wolf?
Maybe because certain level of lycanthropy. A lycanthrope. We'll leave it like that. Depends on the level of lycanthrope.
I'm going to say longer you're a werewolf, the more wolf-like you'll become.
Probably.
That's my guess. Anyway, two things you expect from this movie: a shot of the moon and a werewolf transformation. Well, you kind of get one.
Yeah, you don't get the moon, but you do get transformation. You get to see his feet transform.
Yeah, well, gotta give them credit. I mean,
Yeah, they implied it.
they couldn't really do the face yet. They didn't do that until Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, and it's actually really awesome how they do it. It gets better in House of Frankenstein, but yeah, they don't show you a whole lot. They they put more emphasis on what they imply than what they actually show. And again, great sets. From the village to the woods.
The woods they went crazy with.
Yeah, especially the fog.
Went batshit because there's not enough fog. Need more fog. There
Fog!
we go.
Fog!
There's never enough
More
fog.
fog!
Yeah.
As long as there's no, always more fog. As long as there's no undead pirates in it. That comes on tonight. The Fog. It's a great movie. Not the shitty remake. I mean the 1979 one.
Okay.
Anyway, or actually 1980. But anyway, the werewolf, like I said, Jack Pierce knocks it out of the park with the werewolf makeup. You have the gypsy lady. I can't remember her name.
She did a damn good job, actually.
Yeah, she really sold it. Like she had like this one thing she said both to Bela, who was after he died.
Yeah, just saying, you can be at rest, like something like that.
And now rest my son or something like that. She says the same thing to Larry when he got caught in the animal trap. Now, okay, there's a certain phrase that is synonymous with this movie, or actually the whole werewolf mythos is.
You're talking about the one where they beat it through our head through the
Yeah,
first part?
I forgot they did. Totally forgot they did that in that movie. That they the poem is, or the phrase or poem, whatever you want to call it, is even a man who's pure at heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is full and bright. They say this like 3 times in the movie, like in the span of 10 minutes.
Yep.
Like I said, the beginning of this movie is not that great. Once Larry becomes a werewolf, then it gets really good. Then we're getting back to the level of awesomeness like Frankenstein. And it's kind of funny to think everybody throws the Wolfman right with Frankenstein and Dracula and all that, but where Frankenstein came out in 1931, the Wolfman came out 10 years later. You look at the Creature from the Black Lagoon. The Creature from the Black Lagoon wasn't made until 1954. But all these monsters get lumped together. Well, most people think they're all from like the 30s or the 40s. But anyway, so yeah, this movie, another classic. For me, it's not as memorable as Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. I think that that was a bit of a mess, but I remember a lot more from that, probably because I saw it more. But this is still really good. Just not really that great of a beginning, and it's very dated. Like basically, what we saw as him pushing himself and all that, and being creepy, that might have just been charming back then. We don't know how people thought. We don't know how people think back in 1941. I don't know where else to go with this. Great acting, great sets, great music. This is really when they really started to use music. Because if you notice in Dracula and Frankenstein, there's hardly any music.
Yeah, in Dracula you can definitely notice it, but in Frankenstein you actually don't really notice it that much.
Yeah, just with all the lightning, with all the thunder and the villagers and all that, you do kind of miss the fact that there is no music. But this is really when the music really got going. And I'm not the first one to point this out. A lot of people pointed this out, but yeah, sounds like something Danny Elfman would have came up with. I still think that this is one of Danny Elfman's inspirations, because I can't help it. I hear Batman when I hear the music. I think Batman when I hear some of the music in this movie. So, was that the last one we watched? Was the Wolfman?
Yes, because I didn't make it to the other one.
Okay, we didn't get the Creature from the Black Lagoon. So overall, what do you think? What did you think of these movies?
Actually, I found them actually quite enjoyable, especially Frankenstein. I think really Frankenstein was the strongest out of them all.
Yeah.
Solid acting, good atmosphere, damn good sets. It's really one of the solid and most memorable ones. It's probably Frankenstein.
Now, I could talk for hours about Universal monster movies, because I grew up on it. I love this shit. You probably couldn't really get that through all my stuttering and jumping around and all that, but I really do love these movies. I don't know where it comes from. I've asked my mother where it came from, and she just told me that I used to bring home these monster books. Of course, I couldn't read back then, so I had her read them to me. And I guess that's what got me into them. My first Universal Monster movie was actually The Wolfman. And I caught most of these on TV whenever they would show them, like on Monster Vision or on. Oh shit! Remember Monster Vision? You probably don't.
I don't. I don't.
Hopefully, somebody who listens to this remembers Monster Vision. Now I just watch Monster Madness every year done by James Rolfe, which that's funny. Most people think of him as the angry video game nerd. I think Monster Madness, because that's where I first discovered James Rolfe was through Monster Madness, and it's just funny to think that one of the biggest guys on the internet, I have like this connection to because of the monster movies, because he grew up loving old monster movies. So did I. This month I wanted to go through like silent movies and Universal movies and the Hammer movies, but
that's a lot.
That's a lot of movies to watch.
That is a lot, and I can only sit through 1 hour.
You can only sit for one movie a day.
Yeah.
Well, I could watch these like from sunrise to sundown. But yeah, there's just something about the old black and white monster movies that I just really love. I love horror movies. I'll watch any horror movie. Okay, I shouldn't say that because there's a lot of horror movies I don't like. But you know, for the most part, my taste basically goes through from the 1920s to now. Although I've not seen many good horror movies in recent years. The most recent one that I think was like a really good horror movie was The Devil's Rejects. I don't know when that came out, but I remember renting it on DVD and just being like blown away by it. It's not. I was blown away from how fucking intense it was. This was a messed up movie. But it just makes me think, what is the selling point of horror movies nowadays? In the last 30 years? Mostly violence. Mostly violence and gore.
Yeah.
It's mostly seeing blood, seeing gore and all that. But you look at these movies and there's none of it. There is no gore in these movies. And that's mostly due to the standards of the time. You really didn't see blood really into the 50s. I'm talking in monster movies. The first monster movie I ever saw blood in, and this is just coincidence that I went in this direction. When I was young, it was all black and white monster movies. When I was starting to get around 10, that's when I started to discover more modern horror movies. That's when I discovered slasher movies and all that. Okay. And the first monster movie I ever saw that had blood in it was, well, Friday the 13th. I was 10 years old when I saw that. Speaking of, you know what? That might be the topic for next week. Horror movie misconceptions. I don't know. I don't know if we can make a whole episode of that.
I don't know either. That's depends on how much misconceptions there are.
Like the whole, well, most of these people know, like, in Friday the 13th, Jason wasn't the killer. Most people know that. Anybody who saw Scream knows that. Ugh.
Yeah.
I don't like Scream. Never have. Honestly, I think that's one of the most overrated horror movies out there. Other misconceptions would have been like, yeah, I don't know. We'll come up with something
think about
next
it.
week.
But for now, I think that's really about all we have to say about the Universal films, unless you have more to add. I mean, you're the one who watched, all of them. I've only watched about 3.
About 5, I think.
4. I think it was 4.
Dracula,
Frankenstein, The Mummy, and Wolfman.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, really anything else I have to add is just... It's funny to think that most of the classic Universal Monster movies are mostly sequels. Dracula's Daughter, Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, Ghost of Frankenstein, House of Frankenstein, and I guess House of Dracula, if you want to count it. Has Frankenstein monster in it. You have like all the Mummy movies. I might as well talk about those. The Mummy movies, after Boris Karloff left, they focused on a different. I mentioned this earlier. They focused on a different mummy, Karis, which is the exact same, which is the same name of the mummy from the Mummy 1959, the Hammer version. This is what people think of when they think of a mummy movie. You know, the mummy's always wrapped, always just kind of staggering around and choking people. It's not as good as the first movie. I mean, from an acting standpoint, it's not even close. The writing standpoint, not even close. But if you just want an entertaining monster flick, here you go. There's a great effect in the first sequel, the Mummy's Hand, where I can't remember who played the mummy in this, but there's a scene where he's like leaning over a woman in her tent, about to pick her up or whatever, grab her. She wakes up and looks into the mummy's eyes, and there's just black. Like he has no eyes. Of course, it's a terrible effect, but it's also a creepy effect. It just makes it look really creepy and unsettling. And plus the image of the mummy's shadow against the tent, as it's just slowly walking into the tent, that is a very creepy scene for me. I used to have nightmares of just seeing it's not even the idea of a mummy. It's just the idea of something coming to get me. And just seeing its shadow. Something about that just always creeped me out when I was a kid. I have weird fears. The only, I'll talk about that later. I'll stick to this. Yeah, there is actually legitimate creepy scenes in that movie. It's not a great movie. It really isn't. The ending is stupid. The acting is not that great. This is more action movie stuff. It's not really a horror movie. This is not really a horror movie. It's more of an action adventure movie. And I think it's these movies that the 1999 version was based on. The one with Brendan Fraser. It's because that's more Indiana Jones and the Mummy and all that. It seems to be mostly based on these. One thing we forgot to mention, belts to the chest.
Oh, the over high. Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Everybody wore their belts at their chest line.
That was just like, God, those things are going to be hugging your goddamn nuts.
It's like, wow. And that's how people dressed back then. This is how it is.
You sit down and just like...
It's just like, holy crap, everybody, especially in the Mummy, that's where we noticed it was in the Mummy. Because everybody has like these pants up to their armpits.
It's like, ugh.
It's just a silly quirk of the time. But by the way, even though we clearly love these movies, especially me, we can still make fun of them.
Yep, all the quirks, all the errors, like when Dracula was, flying out the window, and he's over by the door, and it's like, oh.
Jump cut.
He must have just, flew down, walked on up.
Also the use of stock footage, where they would just reuse the same clip over, which I can't remember which movie did that.
Well, we were debating if the Dracula was with the stare.
Yeah, they kept going back to the stare. It was that exact same look twice, which was creepy. That look was creepy. Then, oh god, I remember when it sped up the film in Frankenstein. Like this log comes down on the monster when the.
But I mean, that's okay. That's understandable because what are you gonna do? Drop a log on a person?
Yeah, I get why they did it. It just looks really silly. Just for a second, it's turning into Benny Hill for a second. Okay, I'll stop. Getting back to the Mummy sequels, you got the Mummy's Tomb with Lon Chaney Jr., who I'm sure every horror movie fan knows this, that he's the son of the famous Lon Chaney, the man of 1,000 faces, who's most famous. Well, actually, look behind you. Look on that 50 movie pack. That's the most famous thing he's ever played was the Phantom of the Opera. But anyway, yeah, this is when they were really. This is when they were really starting to run out of steam. Lon Chaney was not good for this role, but you know, hey, he worked with it. He actually was by the Mummy's Curse. He was miserable by this shit. You want to know how bad it was? Under the bandages and under the makeup. This wasn't the Mummy's Curse. This was the fourth film. The fifth film, it was just he just wore a mask. In the fifth film, he had a little cantina of liquor under the wrappings and a straw going from his foot, going from his hip. I think it's either the foot or the hip. I've heard both. I've heard both stories where it's either the foot or the hip. Mm-hmm. He has like this cantina on his hip under the bandages, and a straw going up from it to his mouth, and the straw is hidden by the makeup. And he just half the time it's Lon Chaney drunk. I'm not even kidding. Supposedly he was drunk for most of the shooting, and that's where the iconic Mummy's stagger comes from. Is because Lon Chaney got drunk. Well, can you blame him? Being under all that makeup in the middle of summer.
Yeah, that must be like fucking insane.
You want to know what's really insane? The difference of years between the movies. The sixth Mummy film, which one of the films takes place 20 years later, one film takes place 10 years later, another one takes place like 5 years. You add all this up, it's up to 2001. If you really add up all the years, the sixth movie, The Mummy's Ghost takes place in 2001.
Huh.
It's not the future or anything. It's still clearly the 1940s. But I just always found that hilarious. If you add up all the years that they say in these movies, the last movie should take place in 2001. I mean, hell, The Mummy's Tomb takes place in the 70s apparently. Doesn't look like the 70s, looks like the 40s. Anyway, it was something they just threw in there. They didn't really think about actually progressing time or anything like that. And of course, 1970 back then was the distant future, the era of the flying cars and the flying automobiles and giant robots with psychic powers.
No, those robot slaves that clean up your stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, another tidbit in The Mummy's Ghost in the last movie. We were running low on time. All right, I'll wrap this up. In The Mummy's Tomb, God damn it, The Mummy's Ghost. In the last movie, in The Mummy's Curse, you have the woman who's supposed to be like the reincarnation of this ancient Egyptian princess, the typical shit. Actually, this started in the first movie, but whatever. In the end of The Mummy's Curse, which I commend it for this ending. The last scene in the movie is the mummy Kharis taking his long lost love or whatever, lost from time and all that. He carries her into the swamp and they sink into the quicksand. And that's the end of the movie. They don't rescue the girl, which was, you didn't see that very often. So she died with the mummy. But she comes back in the next movie. But this was such a weird scene. She emerges out of the mud and the sand and all that, looking like a mummy herself, and it's very creepy looking. The way her arms are like huddle over her chest, and she has one arm reaching out. She looks like a zombie, and it's just a really creepy scene. So creepy it got cut out in the theatrical release.
Give those people with heart attacks.
It was a legitimate creepy scene, but you didn't show women in that position back then. They had a lot of back then they had a lot of things about women being in peril. You can't be too. This was deemed too graphic. But in VHS release they restored it, so it's still there. So. And it's the best scene in the movie. Otherwise, the movie's a generic piece of shit. By Universal standards, I hold them up to a higher standard when it came to these kind of movies. But yeah, I can talk for hours about this shit. I just absolutely love the Universal monster movies. I don't know that many people who do. A lot of the people I talk to don't even like black and white movies. Like, they will not watch movies just because it's in black and white.
That's kind of dumb.
I mean, so I guess you won't watch some of the greatest films of all time, like, I don't know, Citizen Kane, King Kong, The Haunting. Those are all in black and white and deemed 3 of the greatest movies of all time. So, but then again, certain people I know, I can't get them to watch a movie that's less than. If it's older than 5 years, they won't watch it. But anyway, yeah, I don't know really what else to say. I don't know how well this is going to come across because I've been staggering and stuttering and getting off topic and all that. But hopefully this comes out just fine. And I just hope people really really understand why I love these movies so much. It's just, the phrase, they don't make them like this anymore?
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it. I mean, and then that's not, I'm not hating on newer movies, on modern films. It's just, I don't know, just something about them. Just something that just appeals to me.
It's the old classic things that you grew up with.
Yeah, I guess that's mostly it for me. It's mostly nostalgia because I have fond memories of growing up, having my mom read the books to me when I was little, watching these movies, like renting them on tape, like shit, back when we had a Blockbuster. But they only had like 3 movies.
Mm-hmm.
They had Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, and the Wolfman. That was basically all they had. And couldn't go anywhere else. Although I did find a copy of The Mummy. I have it right there on the shelf. I found that at Walmart.
Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've kind of exhausted this, and I don't really know how to end this, so we're just going to stop. See you next week.
Alrighty, people. See you next time.
On the Hub Show.